Hey everyone, welcome to another Conversations in the Void. I am Graveyard, joined by my always off-screen producer Salem. We're here. We're excited for the tonight's show. We have a filmmaker, writer, director, actor, even in the movie that I happened to watch just this week, which is Holes in the Sky. I'd like to welcome to the show Ash Hamilton.
Hi, thanks for having me. Thank you so much.
Yes. How's it going tonight?
It's going well. It's going well. I'm taking some time off from editing, which something I don't get to do that often. So I'm happy for that.
Is it something that we know about yet, or is it general public knowledge?
Yeah. So we started to shoot earlier in the year an anthology
Mm-hmm.
called EFT, Tales from the End Times. So it's 5 stories, each from different directors.
Mm-hmm.
All taking place on the same day, which is the day the world ends. So it's from different perspectives, got a little bit of different flavors in each segment, but mine is the beginning and the end, and then the wraparound for the other segment. So mine's a little bit longer, and we put probably way too much focus on effects on this one, and post production has been a lot. There's been a lot going on there in post production, and as an indie filmmaker, when I say post production, it always make it sounds like we've got like an actual crew, but it's usually me. So it's a lot for me. I'll put it that way.
Oh yeah. I do this show. I do podcasts. I'm on a couple other YouTube channels where I edit, so I get it. It's it's tedious. Yeah, I'm excited for that movie too. I've heard a little bit about it from Josh and Dylan, kind of their parts of it, and some actors in it too. So, also gotta say, I love the hat. I have the same hat. Not on, but
It's like an elite club getting this hat.
yes.
I'll see other people online, and then I'll have to say, "Hey, listen, nice hats. Here's your laminated union card for us all having the same great hat." And we meet Wednesdays, after work. But it's a great hat. I get more comments on this hat. So, yeah.
Awesome. So let's start off with some easy questions here. Really, what movie brought you, do you think, into the horror world as you know it today?
I think it was probably a lot of early like made for TV movies. Um, I bear a distinction of probably looking younger than my age because I'm extremely immature, and that has helped to somewhat mummify my overall appearance. But I'm definitely from that gateway generation where we had 3 channels
Mm-hmm.
growing up for the most part before cable was introduced into a very rural neighborhood that I lived in.
Yeah.
So a lot of my early experiences to horror were either made for TV movies, a lot of older Hammer films that
Yes.
were acquired by broadcast networks, and they were used as midnight movies. A lot of early Sinbad films. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of stuff, like circa 70s was a lot of stuff that I grew up on. We're talking, Trilogy of Terror with Karen Black,
Yes.
Gargoyles, a lot of the stuff that you would find in that like back catalog that the networks would purchase, stuff that
Mm-hmm.
was easy for them to run on Fridays or Saturday nights and get, that late night audience. So that's a lot of my early, upbringing. And then finally, when I was introduced into the bigger world of basically blackmailing my parents to take me to go see movies, it was always a way. I had to find a way to exploit for
Right.
them to actually take me. I remember seeing, The Kindred with Rod Steiger like the night that it came out.
Oh,
I remember
wow.
my dad sort of sitting there like, "What am I doing?" Like, and that was like, and if I was like 10,
Right.
there were these 9 o'clock showings of movies that would only run for, a few days back then.
Oh
So,
yeah.
yeah, I got introduced to a lot of that, then stuff that would run on like Maxim rotation on
Mm-hmm.
HBO, Cinemax and stuff. Beast Within was something that
Yes.
had an impact on me when I was younger because it was a very visceral
Mm-hmm.
horror film. And it was very red, very bright red. A lot of movies of that time sort of, dialed it back a little bit, at least sort of in that sort of weird subgenre. So
Right.
stuff like that had a huge, impact on me. So I was very curious, I
Hmm.
think, where these movies came from, because it wasn't something that you would see trailers for
Right.
on yes television. You would see it after, and then eventually the direct to video stuff. So it was a bit like it's like a cinephiles applied archaeology where you got to dig to get to these things, and then when you do, it's like now I've got more questions than answers, and then you've got to find the next one. So it becomes a little bit of an obsession, but that's a very long-winded answer
Oh
to
yeah.
what got me into this.
Oh yeah. I mean, I get that too, especially the '80s straight to video, all that stuff too. And if your mom and pop video store had it, you weren't going to see it either, really, for the most part.
Oh, right. Yeah. And then, we were all really basing it on the cover artwork
Yep.
anyway. So you get stuff and you're like, how can I pass up the video dead? How can I do that to myself? Look at the
Oh,
cover artwork. Yeah.
oh yeah, yeah. I know. I remember for me, the first Halloween movie I saw in the completion without being on, a TV movie version of it, right, was The Curse of Michael Myers. And
Oh,
I
wow.
I watched that one like I have to see more. So
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But I've always sort of been like, I would say sort of, I've always been extremely nerdy, like in every sort of aspect of that. Even when I was younger, I have very fond memories of my father bringing home a, a beta
mhm.
VCR, and that was an introduction to a whole new world. And we had back then, before some of the bigger chains like Hollywood Video, Family
Yeah,
Video, Blockbuster, etc., really got into the market. It was a lot of appliance stores that were getting into that market. They would have these little back rooms with maybe 80 beta tapes,
yeah,
or whatever. You'd go back there, and they'd have a little ring on a hook that signified that it was in.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Like now it's sort of like sort of a sleazy like backroom kind of thing. It's like you had to take like something off a hook and bring it to somebody, and then they looked under the counter. I blew the dust off of it and cackled and handed it to you. And then you had to give it to somebody within 7 days. But yeah, like back then, I think one of the first ones that I even watched was Ralph Bakshi's animated Lord of the Rings, and I
Wow.
was like, we can watch this more than once. Like we can
Right.
put it on, and then we can take it back to the beginning. Much to the chagrin of my parents, are like, yeah, we can watch the animated Lord of the Rings more than once.
Oh yeah. Of course you have
Yeah.
to. You
They
have
should
to.
have just lied. They should have just like bald-faced lied to me, like, no, one time. That's it.
Yep.
That's all
Yep.
you
Yep.
pay for.
One use
Yeah,
tape.
one time rental.
So speaking of stuff like that, what would you consider to be the most overrated horror film, franchise, book, TV show, video game, in your opinion?
Oh, jeez. I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this, by the way, especially because it seems to be a very popular like subsection of films right now.
Hmm.
But some of the A24 stuff just bores me to death, and like I hate to say that because I get what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like I'm not blind to how good some of the actual filmmaking is.
Yeah.
I can watch it and go, wow, that's beautiful.
Hmm.
That looks great. But am I gonna watch it again? No, unless maybe I'm held at gunpoint or something. There's some of them that are just. I think that we've got into this and I mean, it's not as if this hasn't been around. It's been around for years, but I think that it's a little more prevalent with the A24 stuff.
Hmm.
Is like, and I kind of it's kind of this term like horror movies that hate being horror movies.
Yes.
Like they really try to give you that 1-2 punch with their marketing and their
Yeah.
advertising to get people in, and They'll put in really nice bold typeface, stunningly disturbing. And, you're sitting there going, oh, now I've got to see that.
Yep.
And you get lulled in to a lot of these A24 films. And, by the time you're done, it's like, first of all, it's like, was that 2.5 hours? I do believe it was. And for someone that has watched a lot of horror films, you can have a really good film like without breaking new ground. You can have a really good film that has a lot of the similar tropes, but A24 seems to really like pride themselves on we're breaking new ground.
Yeah.
And it's like, what, you've never seen the fucking Wicker Man, for God's sake, breaking new ground. You're just pandering to an audience that hasn't seen half these movies. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I was looking through some of your reviews on horror fix and stuff like that. And there's one that stood out that my co-host and I have discussed. He hasn't even seen it. That I completely agree was the most overrated garbage in the past year. Skinamarink.
Oh Jesus! It's. I think that we're so like hungry, and I don't want to blame the fans. Like I don't, but it's like we're so hungry for something that. And again, I'm going to use that term again, break the mold. We're so hungry for something to come along and be different that it's like if I ate roast beef sandwiches for a whole year, if someone was like, hey, listen, here's a shit sandwich, I'd be like, well, it's different.
Right.
And I think people don't realize that sometimes it's still a shit sandwich. It's just not roast beef for a year. So
right. Oh yeah. We call Skinamarink the hey, let's leave the camera on the ground and look at walls and doors movie.
And I've had a lot of conversation with people about it. And one of my friends, in fact, I think he's actually listening tonight, was like, if you like walls, if you like doors, you're going to love this movie.
Exactly.
Like, this is an interior designer's wet dream. Walls and doors. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. I completely agree with you with the assessment that we are hungry for something new, but that people are trying to do, the elevated horror where it's,
it's just a weird term, right?
It is a weird term.
Isn't that weird? It's like saying if you like regular horror, you're just a complete fool. That's almost like that's sort of what it's saying. It's like, oh no, we took that redheaded stepchild of cinema and we turned it into something.
Right.
We gave you horror that's elevated.
Yeah, no, you didn't.
Rick, the dark, that's elevated horror for me.
Yeah. Ricky saying he had to sit through that crap twice to write the review.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He's my if you like doors, if you like walls guy. Yeah.
Awesome. Hey Ricky. Yeah. Like I said, my wife, she's like, it's the greatest movie of all time. Yeah, I'm like, all right, and we watched it. I go, what did I watch? I don't know what I watched. It's like an art house film,
right? But, like it's like I get concept and I get high concept,
Yeah.
Sometimes maybe high concept works better as a short film. Mm-hmm. I think that high concept has a medium and a format that works really well for it. I think once you start extending past like that 40-minute mark, and you're really looking to sort of just push any kind of narrative forward that maybe it should have been a short film.
Yeah,
maybe it would have worked better that way.
Yeah, I think it would have been better just as a series on YouTube, as a short 10-15 minute increment film spaced out.
Yeah, it seemed. I think there's a forum for that. I really do, and I think I'm more prone to like artsier short films. Mm-hmm. I think I'm also more like forgiving, because I think if you're going to go for something that's an hour and 20 minutes, an hour and a half, you better look at an hour and a half script and go, okay, this is necessary.
Yeah.
Or if not, I'm not saying don't make a movie. Make every movie. That way we can watch the good and the bad movies, and we're in a world where all those things exist, and I'm very glad all those things exist. But I'm just not going to watch it twice. Just me.
So let's get to know Ash Hamilton a little bit more. So how did you get into filmmaking? I know I said I watched Holes in the Sky, and is some of that backstory for you characterization of yourself, or do you really teach horror and do short films and all that stuff too?
Yeah, I did teach filmmaking and motion graphics and a whole lot of other stuff. A lot of sort of the digital science of filmmaking
Yeah.
for years. I taught high school through college, and what I found myself doing, and even and we're talking even before then, like I was part of a crew that did a lot of the evacuation procedure videos after 9/11 when I lived in New York.
Okay.
So I was always shooting stuff. I've been shooting stuff, for the better part of like 30 years. So I've always had a technical aptitude for, okay, I think this needs this. I've always edited, whatever it was, even if it was just like a corporate culture video or, a short or whatever. I've edited a lot of stuff. And you come to that weird conclusion where you're like, why haven't I made a film?
Right.
When I am such a lover of film and I have the technical know-how and I can knock out some of that overhead because I've already got quite a bit of equipment. So it was a no-brainer for a really long time. Like I should probably, make a film. I had made a short film when I had made a horror themed board game.
Yeah.
And I was wanting to make a commercial for it. So we started shooting this commercial, and the commercial sort of lent itself more to a short film, only 5 minutes long. But as I made that short film, and I'm like, hey, I'm not going to say, hey, I'm not bad at this, but it was like I can do this.
Right.
Like I never looked at I'm I can do this. I can do this really well. It was always like no, I'm just capable. I'm competent at putting all and then having something come out that's a finished end product. And it just sort of, I think once you do something like that once, and you do it for yourself and not somebody else, then you do sort of catch that bug.
Yeah.
And I know that's a very cliche thing to say, but it rings true for a lot of people. When I was doing this for other people, it was always just, okay, I've got my retainer. I'll do this within 2 weeks. I'll hand it in. And it is what it is. But once you do something for yourself, and there is that kind of that kind of reward and that kind of validation, it's like, oh, I can do this, And again, it's like I can do the A to Z. Like chronologically, I can put all these things together, and it'll come out the other side as something complete. So that was really sort of after I did the short film, I was like, oh, we should try to just literally kill ourselves and make something that's not 5 minutes and that's an hour and a half. Right. Because that'll be a great way to not sleep for like 2 years. So that was what I attempted to do. And so not a lot of sleep.
Yeah. Trust me, I don't know if you knew, I went with Josh when he filmed his part for Split Screen. Yeah. So I was there for that long weekend with him, saw this process and all that stuff too, and it got me to get the bug bit me too. I was talking to him, we were talking to Dylan, Mike Rock, and Hunter, as well. Like, I want to get my hand into this too.
Yeah, once you do it, like it's especially like production. Being there, physically shooting, with actors, using some, physical effects if you have it, and really being involved in that thing that for the better part of your life was a behind the scenes kind of thing for you. Right. Whether it was, featurettes or, listening to Blu-ray commentaries, it was always something that was very, very interesting. But then when you're actually physically there doing it, you figure out why people, forego regular jobs, live off of ramen for years. Like you begin to understand, like, oh, this is a compulsion, right? And easily it's very hard to quit, and it has that addictive quality to it, for better or for worse. And then you're like, now I've got to do this, and I got to keep doing it.
Right. Yeah, as Ricky said, it's addictive. Yeah, I can't wait to start this process. I have some stuff in the works. I can't wait to see what comes out. But Holes in the Sky, let's talk a little bit about that. So you play yourself. You play Ash Hamilton in the movie. Do you consider was that just a choice just because it's, a documentary style and you play a characterization yourself? Or do you think it was kind of more of a meta thing of that,
There were a lot of aspects. One, like I don't know if I've ever actually talked about this, but so there was an active decision early on because we were shooting on such a low budget with such finite resources that we did look at each other at one point and go, if we use our real names and we get good footage in the outtakes, we can use it. So there was a very pragmatic approach to doing that in the beginning. And then as we started doing it, it was like, no, I think this works. And, I've got a site and I've got other things that I've done. So if people were to Google my name, for example, it would come up that I'm in this field. I've done these things, and it might add an air of realism. So that sadly though I would like to say that it wasn't really inspired, but mainly it was the very pragmatic approach to, if we get our real names on camera, but it's a good moment, we'll be able to use it if we play ourselves. A little opportunistic, but that was really sort of how we went about it in the beginning.
Nice. Yeah. I thought, it was great to see that, so what was it like kind of, if were you the director obviously too, right? So what was it like for being in front of the camera and then having to edit yourself then behind the camera and everything?
You get really tired of seeing yourself. You get really tired of facial tics. Is my nose dry? Why do I keep scrunching my face up? I think when you're looking at other people, you map that landscape real quickly.
Yeah.
But when it's you've been doing that process every day for as long as you've been alive. And now suddenly you're having to do it sort of objectively, which is a whole sort of different ball of wax. So you really have to look at yourself and just not hate yourself. You've got to not hate everything that you do. And you've got to, or if you do hate everything you do, you got to get over it, at least until you're done editing, or else you're just going to sit there and go, oh, this fucking guy, not again. I got to look at this guy's face one more time and edit this shit. It's killing me. So yeah, there's definitely a point where you're like, why did I agree to do this? And then when you get in post and you need all those pickup shots, you're always around. So then you're like, oh, I know why I did this, because I'm awake at 3:00 in the morning when nobody else is. If I'm going to take a phone call, I can do it right now. And I'm not going to wake anybody up or piss anybody off.
Yeah. Like I said, I have to edit videos of myself. I have to edit my voice. I still can't go over how much I hate myself when I'm doing these things sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's not like you got to learn to love yourself. I don't think there's any real applied self-help psychology here. I think it's you've just got to tolerate yourself enough.
Right.
Just enough.
Just enough. Yeah.
Just enough to realize that, that other people are going to look at your face and go, oh, I don't like that either. And be comfortable with that, and then just move on. You got to be able to do that. Nice.
So, this horror-fix.com is your website, correct? That's also, is that your production company name as well?
Yeah. So we've got Horror Fix, and then we've got Horror Fix Films, because it's really easy to fold stuff into a pre-existing entity. So it was let's just go ahead and name it Horror Fix Films. So that's sort of the banner that we do the film stuff under.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about horrorfix.com, how'd that come to fruition?
It's going to sound strange because it seems like everything that I do is based off of me doing it for other people and then deciding that I should do it for myself. It's this weird kind of resentment towards my clients. But I was doing a startup web development company on the East Coast. I was in New Yorker for about 12 years, and I was doing a lot of websites for a lot of people. And I wasn't really doing anything for myself. I was in radio there and some podcasting and stuff. But I always sort of asked myself, like, why aren't you, taking your love of whatever it is that you love and actually just doing a website, having fun with it. And, if you make a few bucks along the way, that'd be great. And nobody really expects it. But, you do that. And that was sort of what that was, is I was just like, I love films. I love talking about films. I would love to create a forum for that. And I mean, you know as well as I do too, that once a website becomes really, really popular, some of it's a little sponsored.
Yeah.
Like, I hate to point a finger, but it's like a lot of bigger websites. I mean, they know who's paying for their banner ads.
Yes.
They know who's paying for their advertisements. So some of that stuff is really skewed. Right. And I, from the very beginning, said, hey, if I don't make a damn penny off of this, I can be as opinionated as I want to be. So me striving to make absolutely no money off of this site, that's kept me extremely honest.
Yeah, I mean, I know the websites that you're talking about. I think we all do.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, like we all know something is complete garbage, and it's like, man, they're really, really like spearheading a movement to get this thing popular. And if it's, I mean, believe me, like I don't truly think anything is garbage. Like I use that term very, very loosely. Like even like the worst movie is like, man, they did it. Like they did it, especially the low budget stuff, the really, really indie low budget stuff. It's like, if this thing just, like reeks of high tide, if it's like that bad, but you got to hand it to that person, especially once you do it once. You're like, hey, you did it. I might not like it. I might not really get it. It might not be my thing. But fuck, man, God bless you. Like you went out there and you did it from beginning to end, and then you stuck by it. I mean, I remember getting into reviewing some of these films and interviewing some filmmakers early on. Mm-hmm. And even some of the filmmakers were like, no, I know my film was hot garbage. I know it is. It was a miracle it got distributed. It's a miracle you found it and watched it. And like they're still sticking by it. And it's like, again, fucking God bless you, man. It's like you're getting up every day and you are championing this piece of garbage. Like you're championing it. It's like, God, you gotta love those guys. It's like, man, I've had enough to censure people who watched my movie, who wrote me at 3:00 in the morning, just drunk, being like, hey, I just took a shit and I realized that it bore a huge resemblance to your movie. And I'm like, thank you, sir. Thank you for watching. I'm very grateful.
He's still watching it though. Yeah. And that's why I love indie horror and low budget horror so much, is because there's a lot more, I feel, passion behind it, because it's the family, it's the creative process, it's the smaller teams that make it happen.
And the name of the game is never, huge funding.
Right.
So these are people who are, again, getting up at 2:00 in the morning, with a stroke of inspiration and, going downstairs or going out to wherever, their office is at, and going, okay, I'm going to work on this for an hour because because it's here, I got to finish this thing. It's, again, talking about that kind of compulsion, you got to hand it to them because, they might never see a paycheck, and a lot of us don't.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like I said, it's because you're driven for the passion and the love of what you're doing. You're not there.
Like you got to really want to tell a story.
Oh yeah. So tell us a little bit how Scareplex fits into what you do in horror fix and stuff like that.
So I'm just gonna put my tinfoil hat on for a moment, but like we all know, there's really nobody watching out for the little guy. And if somebody says they're watching out for a little guy, you better watch your back. And unfortunately, that's sort of the name. And in streaming and, distribution in general, man, it's a rough game. The filmmakers aren't getting paid. They're not getting paid what they deserve. Some of them are never getting paid at all. I hear horror stories every day from filmmakers who signed on with the distributor and still have never received a check. It's 2 years later. and they know that it's made money.
Right.
The model doesn't help filmmakers. It's 50% to the streaming services, 50 to 65, even 70 to the distributor. Then you might have a broker, you might have a producer. You've got a lot of filmmakers who are barely making 5 to 7% of the profit for these films, and they still got to pay taxes on it. So with something like Scareplex, the idea is that they set the price. If they want to sell it for $10, then we'll sell it for $10, and they'll get the $10. Right. The only thing that we need to make money on is the subscription, so that we can keep it afloat.
Right.
But as far as anything else, if you've got advertisements on your film, and we try to put 3 advertisements on each film, and they're like 9 seconds long. But of course, people still complain about the 9 seconds. Then you get on Tubi, and it's like, wow, that was 11 minutes of commercials. Yeah. So we've only got about 9 seconds. So a total of, you're only going to waste 20 seconds of your life on commercials. But what those commercials do is that the idea is that when it starts really bankrolling, that's all revenue that's going to go to the filmmakers. I don't want to make any money off of the advertising. I'm just trying to make money off of subscription, so that I can pay for our hosting. I can pay for all the CDN to actually host the films, so people can watch them, and pay for a fast one that they can watch them easily. So the idea is filmmakers can go through us directly. Don't have to worry about a middleman. Don't have to worry about distribution. Don't have to worry about somebody else changing the price. Right. Really, they just come to us and go, hey, I've got a movie, and we'll go, fantastic. Let's put it up and tell us how much you want to charge for it, or if you don't want to charge for it at all, how you expect to make revenue, or if you just want it to be seen, get a hold of us and we'll try to push it. So that's sort of what the idea is, a Tubi alternative that's not giving more money to, Rupert Murdoch, the 1% billionaire that owns Fox News, that also owns Tubi. Right. I mean, I love being able to watch stuff on Tubi, and I still will, because of the accessibility of it. But, I got to cringe when I think that I'm giving this guy money.
Yeah.
It's like, another billionaire is getting, but I'll help him pay his light bill this month, because I'm sure he's hurting. But,
there you go.
So it was an alternative to that.
Awesome. Yeah. Like I said, I've been checking out. I'm probably going to subscribe probably this week, or even after the stream, just because, like I said, I love supporting, indie filmmakers. I love supporting anyone who's doing these great things and putting platforms out there for all these people to watch their movies.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. It's the least I could do for the filmmakers. They're getting up at 2 a.m. to shoot that movie, to shoot that scene.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, this went by fast for me. I don't know about you.
Me too. Yeah. Easily, yeah.
Oh yeah. We'll have to have you back on just for a part 2 of Ash Hamilton.
I would love to. I've got plenty more to bitch about, my friend.
But let's get some of these hard questions we have for you. You ready for it?
Okay.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Oh wow. Yeah, that's the hard one, right? That's the hard one. So the way I usually answer this is a bit of a cop-out, which is, what movie can I watch ad nauseum? Mm-hmm. And there are probably 2 or 3 that I'll watch no matter when it's on, and no matter where it's at in the film. 5 minutes in, 50 minutes in. I will watch Jaws.
Yes.
No matter how little or far it is into the movie. And I will watch it with the same kind of enthusiasm as like the first time, because I just love that movie. I absolutely love Jaws. And I do consider it a horror film.
Oh, I mean, absolutely.
A small child gets killed in a geyser of blood. And people were taking their kids to see this in a theater. Oh, yeah. And then they were dropping them off the town pool afterwards. Just increasing that ever-present cycle of PTSD. Yes. But yeah, Jaws and the first Evil Dead. Yeah, there's something about that film that just perpetually fascinates me. I just absolutely love it, and I love just about anything involving that franchise. I love Evil Dead too. I love Army Darkness. I love Ash versus Evil Dead. everything about that, whether it was hardcore brutal horror all the way through to the tongue-in-cheek comedy. I love just about everything about that franchise. And I think the fact that it evolved the way it did was extremely brave, and they were always trying to do new things with it. And I love even the ancillary stuff. I love the 2013 Fede Alvarez remake. I got to talk to Fede Alvarez, which was a huge moment for me. Yeah, he produced the Netflix Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I was afforded, actually quite a bit of time to talk to him. We talked about Evil Dead, which was just a hallmark for me. I got to walk the red carpet at Scarefest with Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell when our film won Best Feature. So there are those benchmark moments in my life that seem to all sort of revolve around Evil Dead. And I loved Rise, just about anything associated with the franchise. I think they've made some daring but great decisions. And for me, that's like a personal love letter. Like, let's not keep it the same thing. Let's keep it interesting, exciting, and keep it moving. And I think they've done that with every entry and everything that they've done.
Oh, yeah. Half my horror sleeve is Evil Dead. So I am
fantastic.
Right there with you. My oldest is named after Jane Levy's character from the 2013 Evil Dead. My son is born on Bruce Campbell's birthday. His name's Ash William.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, being an Ash is, sort of great for me. It's easy to remember.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So practical or CGI? What do you think? What
I'm one of those rare guys that I think there's room for both.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I say that is sort of being an indie filmmaker, the practical stuff is great. And if you can do it and you can get it right, it's fantastic. But sometimes some of those gags only work once. And if you need to augment it digitally, that's sort of the camp that I'm in,
mm-hmm.
is try to do as much practical as possible. But if you need to augment it, if there's something that you need to do, like if you've got, like we used a Hudson sprayer and effed on this woman's face, right?
Yeah.
And we tried it, and it's like, in theory, Hudson sprayer should look good. The problem is that sometimes it's just too fine. You're not really getting anything that has a lot of substance to it. So you go back and you go, okay, we've got the physical blood there. Let's augment it with digital stuff. So I fall into that, cross camp opinion where it's like, try for practical, but take advantage of the digital. It's there. Like, Don't kill yourself, doing pickup shots for practical effects 3 months, down the road because you didn't get it right, when you were shooting, during your initial production. If you can use the digital stuff and it looks good, and you've got a commitment to trying to make it look even as bad as the practical. Like, if you shot it practically and for whatever reason, like it was blurry or whatever, you got to make it look like it exists in that universe, or there's no real reason for it, and there's some times where it's way too obvious and it takes you out of it, and it looks a little too glossy or too plastic, or doesn't look organic enough. But so that's cop-out answer, but it's both worlds. I'll have a foot in both worlds. So
there you go. Yeah, I think that's what Stranger Things did really well with Vecna in season 4 was most of his stuff was practical, then they enhanced it with CG. Just because I also compare the original thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, to the remake or the prequel they did. One practical, one CGI, and they should have done practical for this prequel.
Yeah. Well, Jurassic Park is always the proof in the pudding.
Yeah.
Jurassic Park being a film that was largely shot, in 92, and then, subsequently, when you take a look at it even today, that mix of pioneering digital effects and the practical, it's like they knew what they were doing. They could have went total CGI with it, but they decided this is what looks good up close. This is what looks good when we've got tight shots. This is what's going to look good from a distance. When they couldn't use Phil Tippett's effects for it because it just at that point in time they were looking for something a little more revolutionary.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So, do you have any advice for anyone getting into the field of filmmaking?
Spend a lot of time writing. Like spend as much time in pre-production as absolutely possible. I know we're in an environment now where the overhead is so low that you can take a camera or take a phone and take whatever you want and start shooting. But don't give yourself that headache. Like, don't do it. Like, if you got a friend that can draw somewhat decently, have him come over and do some storyboards. And I would also say feeding people goes a long way when you don't have any money.
Right.
Frozen pizzas are cheaper than minimum micro budget day rates for actors. If you can feed people and keep them happy, do whatever you can to do that. You know, if it's $5 out of pocket as opposed to 5,000, and that's what you can afford, buy that frozen pizza. Keep people fed and keep them warm.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. And time for your random horror movie trivia. What 1988 film directed by Wes Craven centers around an anthropologist sent to Haiti to research voodoo?
Oh, Serpent in the Rainbow.
Yes. Awesome. Yeah, you are correct. You're going on to our list of correct for the guests. We are keeping track.
Suck it, Josh.
There you go.
Sorry.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Ash. So give us your plug, Wills. Where can people find you? Where can they support you?
They can find us at HorrorFix on Twitter. We've got a pretty big presence there. You can find me, Ash Hamilton, on Facebook, Instagram, just about everywhere else. You can go to scareplex.com. That's a fairly easy URL to remember. You can go to horror-fix or -fix, depending on what generation you're from, .com, and see some reviews, see some interviews. We've got 10 years of content there to look through. We've got a ton of stuff. And definitely Holes in the Sky is available on 9 different streaming platforms now. It's really easy to find. It's really easy to find free. And watch out for Eft. We're in our final days of post-production, so that'll definitely be a 2024 film to watch out for.
Sweet. I cannot wait to watch that. I've heard nothing but great things from everyone involved that I've talked to so far.
That's fantastic. That's great.
Yes.
I like to hear that.
All right. Well, I've been Graveyard. You can find us on everywhere on social media at Pod Out at Night. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe to this video, because the more subscribers we get, the more free horror swag we are going to be giving away. We have signed posters. We have movies, all this great stuff. So make sure to let us know how you like the show. And make sure to check out our They Mostly Pod at Night Mostly podcast, which is on comicconradio.com. New episodes releasing every Wednesday at this point in time. All our archival stuff is anywhere you get all your podcasts in the past. And make sure if you ever want to get us buy some merch and support our channel, go to our link in the description below. But so thank you very much, Ash, for coming on tonight. It's a blast. And yeah, we'll see you next time on Conversations of the Void. Bye.